It goes for like $300–400 now. Just that little air filter unit. That's amazing. All right. Now we've got the guys here. I'm going to let them take it away. Start this interview off. Remember, stick around because that scale model will be coming up at the end of the interview.
I don't remember, but the accomplishments here are staggering. So these guys were in their 20s when they walked through the doors of Chrysler's Highland Park Engineering Lab during the late 1950s. They're not in their 20s now, but they might as well be. But their love of speed and a knack to make things go fast instantly formed a cohesive bond among them. They were enthusiasts as well as engineers and employees. Quickly and efficiently, they worked around the corporate system and were considered a rogue band of engineers by some of their counterparts within the walls at Chrysler. And it was their candy-striped, max-switch-powered Dodge Superstalkers that terrorized drag strips across the country in 1963 and finally put the Chrysler brand on the minds of young performance enthusiasts. As the sport evolved, so did the engines and the vehicles these guys got their hands on. The heavy package cars, factory experimentals, funny cars, and dragsters blazed new ET and strip records at virtually every event where they showed up. Between their rigorous racing schedule and full-time jobs at Chrysler, they still managed to develop and engineer significant innovations not only for the corporation, but also for the sport of drag racing and the growing high-performance parts industry that was just getting in gear during this era. So I bring you some of the innovations they started. The first tunnel ram intake manifold, first resonance-tuned intake manifold, first 180 exhaust headers, the only hot rod club to have 5 national record holders, the first 4-bar or 4-link rear suspension, the first drag race team to introduce the automatic transmission, the 727 push-button torque light, a mighty and brilliant transmission, the first Chrysler car to win a national drag racing event, and of course the first cars in 62, 3, and 4, and of course the first top fuel Hemi engine, the first altered wheelbase cars, and of course the first tube-frame Chrysler funny cars. Where does it end? Well, anyway, I bring you here today Dave Rockwell, Dick Skoglund, and John Wehrle. The other Ram Chargers guys aren't here today, but they're here with us in various other ways. They were at Carlisle a couple of weeks ago in Pennsylvania, and they turn up randomly, but these are the guys we have today. So we'll get it started, I guess, with Dick. What was your major, I guess, input to the Ram Chargers during your time with them?
Well, I started in '65, and like most of us, we just started sweeping the floors and hanging around, and then I gravitated to the fuel dragster. So I spent most of the time going to the races with the fuel dragster when we were developing the fuel motor.
Now the fuel dragster, of course, I guess Don Garlitz and you were the first two to really put a blower in nitromethane into the 426. Or did you guys beat Garlitz to the punch with the second-gen Hemi and that blown fuel application?
Yeah, we were ahead of Garlitz most of the time.
And John Wehrle, your efforts with the Ram Chargers, primarily, what were they?
Well, I started at Chrysler in '62 and joined the Ram Chargers shortly after, and I'd seen them a year before at the Muncie Dragway, and I thought, wow, I'd like to work with those guys. And I did. I joined the club, helped them with their stock car in '62 and '63. They were so influential to me that I spent the last 43 years of my life in Chrysler Motorsports and just retired in 2005. So I've had the benefit of seeing us grow from the early 60s through what you see right here, right now. So it's been a good trip.
And of course, Dave Rockwell, your primary efforts with the Ram Chargers?
Initially, I swept the floors like Dick. I became involved with the super stocks and funny cars, and eventually we evolved into a separate group, Ram Chargers Racing Engines, which some folks may know around town, a number of speed shops and so forth, before I finally retired in the 70s.
You know, it's really hard for me to understand. I was born in 1964, so I missed it the first time around. You guys were doing your thing, and I was about 10 when I first heard the name Ram Chargers in 1974. But I was surprised to learn that it was kind of, you guys were bucking the system. Dodge didn't really understand or appreciate what you were doing for them. What was it like, I don't know, to maybe not get the kind of recognition that you deserved?
Well, it wasn't universal that people didn't support it. This was new. And it was something that the corporation hadn't been involved with, and so we had to improvise doing the performance work, and we did this all after hours until, in my own case, was I really did motorsports as my primary job. But in the beginning, we did this all after hours, and some of our supervisors didn't understand why we want to leave early, because we were going to go racing that weekend, and how it really helped the corporation. So it was some years before the general management realized that, gee, there was good publicity. We were the cheerleaders for the company, like the football team at a major university. People really gathered behind us, and when they finally saw that people really enjoyed this and were proud of our products, then they really gave us a lot of support.
20 cars, the match racing schedule was hectic. You traveled with those guys. How many races a week would you attend, and what was it like to have a day job and do that at the same time?
Well, it was hectic. It depended. Some weeks we raced twice, maybe Saturday and Sunday. Probably more weeks than not we raced at least 3 times. Everybody was working full-time at Chrysler, so we didn't get time off to go racing. We were on the road usually as soon as we got off work on Friday, and often didn't get back until the wee hours of the morning on Monday. We often raced on the East Coast. We went as far south as Florida and Louisiana, Florida. But it was exciting at the same time. It was barnstorming. It was the beginning of really people having that level of interest to come and see us race. That gave us the opportunity to be invited to race in a lot of interesting places. And of course, the early funny car, the altered wheelbase cars and so forth, they were completely a new concept. We didn't know from week to week what the car was going to do. Its performance improved by absolutely leaps and bounds. At the 65 Winter Nationals, the low ET of the meet for a factory experimental, I think, was right around 1090, and by July we run 890. If we didn't pick up 1/10 of a second a week, we didn't figure like we were doing our homework. So it was fun.
I got to say, as an outsider looking in, sort of a student of what you guys are doing, it's sort of like the aviation history. If the Wright brothers had gone to the moon in 10 years, that's what you guys kind of did in 3 seasons with carbureted door slammers, suddenly blown fuel door slammers, and what a crazy and fast evolution that was. Now, when the altered wheelbase, John, started running into the 9s and the 8s, 8, 10s and 9s, how stable was it? And was it frightening when the car really started to book with the fuel motor injected heavy?
When we started really performing with the fuel, yeah, the performance was just leaps and bounds, as Dave said, and then the chassis become important to keep the car straight. So yeah, it was pretty exciting.
I know the primary driver, I guess, was Jim Thornton in competition. And did he get out of the car and say, "What did you guys do to this thing?" I mean, what was when he got out of the car after running into the 9s? What was he like when he got out of that car? Was he frightened, or was he ready for more?
No, Jim's pretty cool. He never really noticed that he was ever frightened. He thought it felt good. Never afraid.
Now, as far as I know, the door slammer, you guys never put a blower on the door slammer funny car, or did you? Yeah?
No, didn't we put it not on the 65? On 67. Yeah, so it was 67. So that was a specific. That was a race car.
And so, compared to the fuel dragster team, did you guys have similar levels of sponsorship, or at least resources, or did the door slammer guys get more resources? How did you guys divide out the resources between the rail and the door slammer and the flip top?
Well, I guess I'd say we didn't even think about that. We had 2 race cars, and we did whatever was necessary to get them ready for racing. And it was two different competitions. And